There lived a beautiful girl named Kemi. Kemi had always been the hardworking type. Back in high school, she kept her nose to the grindstone, aiming for the stars. She had big dreams, ones that stretched all the way to becoming an engineer. She worked tirelessly, did her homework on time, and her future was brighter than ever. But somewhere along the line, that spark dimmed. It wasn't instant. It wasn't a single moment where everything went off track. Instead, it was a slow burn. She started university in Abuja full of hope, but the allure of the city's nightlife began to pull her in. The late night parties, the expensive drinks, the attention from rich men. Kemi couldn't resist. The glamorous nights out were far more tempting than studying for exam. She wasn't just skipping classes, she was abandoning her dreams altogether. Her friends tried to warn her. Amina, her best friend since childhood, was one of the few who saw the shift. Kemi, this isn't you, Amina would say, trying to bring her back to the reality that Kemi had always strived for. But Kemi didn't listen. She was having fun, living in the moment, and wasn't about to stop for anyone. But what Kemi didn't realize was how much that fun was costing her. She started to live a double life. She would go to class when she felt like it, and the rest of her time was spent in Abuja's widest nightclubs, rubbing shoulders with men who had money and power. They promised her the world, and for the first time, Kemi felt like she belonged. She was no longer just another student. She was wanted, she was desired, and she was no longer the nerdy girl who'd spent her teenage years with her head buried in textbooks. She was living for the rush, the parties, and the gifts. Money started flowing in from side gigs. Money she didn't even need to explain to her parents. She didn't care if they didn't ask her how she was getting it. What her parents didn't know and would never find out was that the money came from a place darker than they could ever imagine. It all started with a man named Chuka. Chuka was everything Kemi thought she wanted. He was rich, powerful, and smooth in every way that made him impossible to resist. He was older, successful, and he made her feel like she had found a shortcut to everything she ever dreamed of. Chuka told her she was special, that she deserved more than the ordinary life she was on track for. He promised her wealth, luxury, and success. All she had to do was let him in. But like most things that seem too good to be true, Chuka wasn't who he said he was. It all went south one night. Kemi had gone out to yet another high-end club in the city, wearing a red-tie dress that clung to her like a second skin. She was feeling like a queen as Chuka whispered sweet words in her ear, promising her a life of riches if she just stayed close to him. And that night, she followed him home. Please subscribe and join the family. We tell stories that heal, teach, and shake tables. Now, let's get back to the story. That night, Kemi went back to her lodge and slept peacefully. It was only the next morning that Kemi had realized the terrible mistake she had made. That morning, she woke up in a pool of pain and panic. Her sheets were soaked. Thick dark blood gushed uncontrollably from her private part. And with it came something even more horrifying. Maggots, alive and crawling. She screamed, a scream so loud it shook the walls. It wasn't just blood, it was a cause unfolding right before her eyes. Kemi couldn't breathe. She was terrified. What had happened to her? She called Amina immediately, her voice trembling. Amina, in panic, rushed to her side, not even asking questions, just knowing something terrible had happened. Kemi, what's going on? What happened? Amina asked. I don't know, Kemi sobbed. I don't know what he did to me. Amina didn't waste a second. She called a local healer, someone known for their spiritual strength, and rushed Kemi to him. The healer didn't hesitate. He began praying, his voice powerful as he spoke words that Kemi couldn't understand. He laid his hands on her, and slowly the bleeding and maggot stopped. But Kemi could feel the weight of what had happened. She had been used in the most horrible way. She was almost used for ritual. When the ritualist who had targeted her, Chuka, was caught, the truth was revealed. He confessed that he had used her for a dark ritual, something far beyond the clubs, the alcohol, and the lies. Kemi felt violated, lost, and broken. She had never felt so empty. But there was hope. Amina never left her side. She stayed even when Kemi thought she didn't deserve it. She called on God, reminding Kemi that there was still a chance for redemption. Slowly but surely, Kemi began to see the light again. It wasn't just the physical wounds that Kemi had to heal from. It was the emotional scars, the betrayal of her own choices. The hardest part was knowing that she had let everything go for something so shallow, so fake. But Amina, through it all, stood beside her when others would have walked away. Amina stayed and made sure Kemi didn't fall through the cracks. And then Kemi realized something. She realized that true strength doesn't come from the things we chase, money, fame, approval, but from those who love us when we are at our worst. Kemi turned to God, asking for forgiveness and guidance. She joined church and started a new life. Kemi knew it wouldn't be easy. She had learned the hard way that life is fragile. But now she had the strength to rebuild herself bit by bit. Kemi learned that redemption wasn't about perfection. It was about surviving the storm and rising again. She shared her stories with others, warning them of the dangers lurking behind the glamorous life she had once craved. And as she did, she made a vow to herself. No more pretending, no more living for approval, no more chasing shadows. Her parents, still unaware of the full story, continued to call her, asking for money. They didn't ask where it came from, but Kemi knew it wouldn't be long before she stopped sending it. They'd never understand, but Amina did. Amina had always understood. So now it's your turn. If you were in Kemi's shoes, would you continue to go down the path of temporary pleasures, or would you have the courage to change your life for something real? Kemi didn't just change her life, she changed the way she saw herself, and that was the real transformation. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining me today and for listening to Kemi's story. I hope it made you reflect, inspire change, and maybe even change your life. Remember, the choices we make today can shape our future tomorrow. If the story inspired you, please don't forget to like and subscribe for more lessons and stories that will move you. Stay tuned for more. Until next time, let's keep growing, let's keep learning, and let's keep shining. Bye.